next. It's unthinkable. David Bowie, the man who transcended gender and genre. You'd think he could transcend death too, but to our collective regret, he has not. David Bowie died yesterday, just 2 days after his 69th birthday, the day on which he released his final album. Born David Jones, he changed his name to avoid being confused with you-know-who from the Monkees. He was a singer, songwriter, producer, painter, actor, and more. His many looks and personas, as depicted in this animation that's going viral today, helped not only keep his act fresh, but endeared him to music lovers across the spectrum, from classical and pop to grunge and punk. He inspired millions, including my next guest, who made music his career and spent some up-close and personal time with Bowie, even going on tour with him back in '92. Longtime music personality and former program director at the now defunct, I hate saying that, WBCN, Oedipus. Oedipus, it's great to see you. So we only know him at arm's length in his many incarnations. You did get close. Where and how?
I started as, he inspired me. He was an inspiration to me. He was a hero, and eventually became a friend.
How'd you meet him? What was the context?
I first met him in 1983. As a teeny bopper fan, I was program director of WBCN, and along with my DJ, Bradley J., we went down to Foxborough Stadium, with Sullivan Stadium then, and had a chance to interview and meet David Bowie. We were so excited. I mean, we were screaming on the radio. We were doing a live broadcast. We sneak into the back of his limousine, steal his cigarette butts, because he's traveling with Bianca Jagger at the time. He smoked Marlboros, she smoked Carltons. So we take his cigarette butts. After we meeting David Bowie, it's pouring rain. We go back to the radio station.
And take a drag on him?
We smoked the Bowie butts on the air because there were Bowie molecules on it.
I think we actually have that, that photograph. And then subsequently, you went on tour with him in Japan, is that right?
One of his conglomerations was Tin Machine, and that was with Reeves Gabrels from Boston, a Berkeley player and Modern Farmer, and a number of other bands, and the Sales Brothers, Soupy Sales Kids, Hunt and Tony.
I didn't know that.
So they toured Japan. I was invited along, and that's when I got to meet David Bowie and really spend time with him and get to know him as a person, because a celebrity is that big. They're surrounded by satellite systems. You never get to know them as people because they're always on.
So what do you know about him that we don't? Based upon that experience.
That he's very intelligent, he's very personable, and when he has the chance to expound on things he knows, he can really share them.
Like what?
Like, for instance, we're on the train to Kyoto, and Bowie finds out that I'm going to spend a few extra days in Kyoto because I'm a Japanophile and I want to spend time in Kyoto. He says, I heard that you're going to spend a few days there. Let me write a few things down for you because I've lived there. So he goes back to the smoking car because he was smoking then because he had quit drugs, he wasn't drinking, walks back, kneels down in the bullet train. Okay, now here's David Bowie's head, just like your head's right here. Now he has two different eyes, okay? And I'm going, what eye do I look at? You know, and he's starting to expound on everything I should do in Kyoto. And behind him is Mount Fuji. And there's Mount Fuji. Here's David Bowie telling me about Zen archers and rock gardens, and he turned me on to the Moss Temple, one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to in my life, and I would have never found it if Bowie hadn't told me about it.
So on stage, in his different incarnations, androgyny was a common thread through a lot. Was that the same when you were sitting on a train just talking to him? I mean, was there that in him there too? Or just sort of a regular, really
Bowie is Bowie.
Talented guy.
He's unbelievably talented, and he's changed personas. He inspired me, you know, rebel, torn your dress. You can be what you want. I could be a purple-haired punk rocker. I could be a program director. I could be a DJ. I could travel off and dive the Galapagos. I could do whatever I wanted. He's inspired me, inspired many people.
If you didn't know what he did, and you met him on that train, and he didn't tell you what you did, and we then talked, what would your impression of this David Bowie guy be? What would you say about him?
There was a magic about him. There was a persona about David Bowie that is just, you just get swept into his aura.
What was the incarnation that meant the most to you, that had the greatest, most profound impact? Which of his personas through the years?
Ooh, that's very tough.
Well, name two.
Well, I consider myself a diamond dog.
And how about you know, it's amazing how broad the crowd. You know, an interesting story I heard today, the mayor of Berlin talked about how Bowie deserves partial credit for the wall coming down because Heroes was an anthem, essentially, for people trying to tear down that wall. So his impact was political, musical, artistic, virtually everything.
He recorded with Bing. He recorded with Lennon. He recorded with Freddie Mercury. I mean, he knew everybody.
Wrote a song with John Lennon, which a lot of people didn't know this morning. You know, one of the painful things about this, I'm a big fan too, maybe not quite as big as you. It is sad that you learn so much you didn't know about someone that huge only when he dies. You know, when you're reading the Rolling Stone or the New York Times today, and you say to yourself, I wish I knew this stuff while he was still alive and performing. What do you think of his most recent work? Again, coming out on his 69th birthday, three days ago.
It's Bowie as being Bowie, always different. And this one really takes study. It's not a one listen. This is not a one listen. And he's Lazarus. Has he really died? He will never die. He will always live with us. His music lives on.
So do you, Oedipus. Great to see you.
You too.
The
Thanks, Jim.
legendary Oedipus, I should say.